So I was just thinking. Hey, welcome to I Was Just Thinking, a podcast about creative confidence. So how does our confidence affect our creativity? And this is for all creatives, everybody who wants to create, make, navigate different creative industries. We will talk about it all in here. Especially we will talk about insecurities that these industries put in on us and how it affects our creativity. And all of this, I am talking through my own insecurities. So I'm putting myself out there, and this is scary AF. My name is Lena. I'm an artist, I'm a musician, I'm a sound designer, I'm soon to be author about creative confidence. My book is going to come out in a couple of months, and that is scary, but very exciting. I am neurodiverse. What else can I talk about myself? I will introduce myself a lot more in this podcast, because as I said, I will talk about it through my own experiences and my own insecurities. And that is one reason why it took me a while to start this podcast. I got this idea already a couple years ago, but I only now have started to actually sit here and make it, because I don't know, there's so many anxieties around this. And we will open those up in this first episode, which is about fear. So I started this idea for a long time ago. So I was listening to a podcast, or he doesn't want to call himself a podcast person, but Antti Holma, a Finnish comedian who did a series of recordings that I would say is a podcast, where he just was talking about with himself. He was just like talking. And I was like, okay, I think that's a brilliant thing to steal from him. I don't think he minds, because he doesn't even call himself a podcaster. So it's something that I can just have a monologue about my insecurities, because this is what I've been doing already on my YouTube channel, researching creative confidence for the last 5 years for my book and my YouTube channel. And I think the idea that I'm not gonna edit this, it's gonna just be one full take. And that is scary. It's scary because I can hide behind perfectionism. I can, which will be a topic that we will definitely cover in this podcast. It's something that I can't go back and think, okay, I say too much of this. My train of thought was not perfect. I feel like a lot of times when it comes to social media content, we do, as much as we want to think that we are authentic and we want to put our authentic selves out there, it's really hard to do fully, because we start thinking straight away, oh, is it good enough? Is it I don't know if it's edited well enough, and also is it engaging enough? And I'm kind of sick of that. I want to just do a moment where I just sit down, I talk about what's going on here and reflect things, because that's what I like to do. And to kind of have it that it's a little bit of dialect between you and me, and all kind of creatives out there, whether you are in music like I am, or whether you are a fine artist, whether you make sculptures, whether you are a comedian, whether whatever kind of art you are in, or even if you're just not even yet in art, or you're just someone who would like to do more artistic things, or even if you don't need to be a professional, you don't need to be whatever. If you are interested in creativity, then I want to hear from you. So I have an Instagram account and TikTok called Lena Thinks. So Lina, 2 I's, Lina Thinks. And go there and send me letters, send me questions, send me letters, send me your thoughts about anything that you hear in a podcast, and I will read them to you here. And I will discuss, and we will have a dialogue that way. So send me letters, questions, whatever thoughts you have, and we will discuss these things in here in the podcast. This far, I have already had couple letters that I already asked some of my creative friends to send me, and I will read a couple of them later on. So let me just quickly talk about this podcast and why it was so scary for me to start. So I started writing my book about creative confidence about 2 years ago. And I must say that I'm not a confident person. I don't think anyone can be fully confident. I think in a scale of this world, I am relatively confident because I do have a quality where I can fight against my insecurities quite strongly. But it doesn't mean that I'm not afraid or that I don't feel anxieties. I don't think there is a person who don't feel these things, or a bit like I used to be very toxically positive, which means that I was thinking, oh, that will be fine. That's absolutely fine. Yeah, there's nothing wrong. I have no, I don't know. I was like covering all my emotions behind this idea that it'll be fine. It's all perfect, until I kind of realized that under all that, I was just protecting myself with all that like very cheery positivity, which is a good thing to be positive, but also it can be toxic when it's hiding true emotion. So after now, like being in therapy for a while, I've kind of realized that there's a lot of anxieties about things, and there's a lot of fear. And one really interesting thing I experienced in the last years is to do with this podcast. So a couple years ago, I got this idea and I was like, oh, I love analyzing myself and I love analyzing the world. I love thinking about things. I love psychological concepts. I love talking and helping people with their anxieties or their creativity and so on. So I decided that I want to do this, and I just kept on pushing it. I just kept on for some reason, I just felt like I didn't have the time, or it was not the right time. I just didn't get it done. Considering I'm someone who usually gets my projects done, like I usually do find the time when I really want to do something. So I don't know, the first year, I just was giving myself a lot of excuses around it. And then what more time went, and the more I went to therapy, I realized that it was not about time. It wasn't really about like whether I had the time to do this or not. It was the fact that I was afraid to do it. And I've only realized this last year that I was actually very scared about doing this podcast. I was very scared about launching my book. And there's a couple reasons for that. Because I wanted to do this without editing it. I wanted to do it very raw, just who I am. And it's very exposing. I have been feeling a lot of imposter syndrome about this, because who am I to talk about, psychological concepts, or who am I to talk about or help people with their creative confidence? Who am I to think that I could do it as a coach? Because I love it when I can help people with it. And that would be coaching somebody. So I felt like, who am I to do that? Because I don't have a degree in psychology or any of that kind of things. I'm a musician and I have a degree in music production. And then so that was one reason. That was one reason I felt like I was afraid of that. And second reason was that putting yourself out there and talking about your insecurities is very exposing. And when you talk about your emotions, generally people are not used to that. We are not really hearing a lot of conversation that is truly honest about how people feel. And that can make other people feel uneasy or triggered. And other people can have then responses on social media or comment section or something where they can take whatever you say and put it into pieces and analyze it the way that they interpret how they want to through their lens, not lens. And yeah, I think that was really scary for me because I've been doing YouTube now for 5-6 years, and to be honest, it's yeah, there has been moments where like the exposure of putting yourself out there so much in over 400 videos has been very exposing. And what I mean with exposing is that you're not fully that person who you are on camera. You are so much more. You are so many emotions and so many aspects of you, but people kind of take something small and they make that whole your identity, or they create ideas who you are. And it can become very confusing for you and who you think you are as a person when that happens. So writing a book about your insecurities and emotions rather than or even talking about then doing a podcast about it feels very exposing. But I needed to weight that with the feeling of how much this could help other people and how much this kind of conversation is needed in the industries, talking about true emotions, how things make us feel. And I was like, yeah, I also enjoy it so much. And I also see so much positivity online, very good comments. Like whenever I made this kind of content, it has been taken really positively. There's always more positive than there is negative. So it made me realize that I need to do this. I need to do this for myself because it's something I'm excited about. So when we talk about creativity, it could be any kind of creative endeavor for you. It could be that you want to start painting, or you want to do also a podcast or a YouTube channel or something. These are all creative projects, and we put so much of ourselves in there, and it is a very vulnerable position to put yourself into. But at the same time, we need to remember that fear is a natural protective mechanism in our brain. You know, it's a fight or flight reaction that happens to us. It's trying to say to us, don't do that because something can happen, something bad can happen. All these fears and anxieties, yes, they are valid, and it's good to listen, like if it's gonna be good for you as a person. But at the same time, if we leave too much for that, I feel like that reaction in our head, the fight or flight reaction, sometimes is a bit too overprotective. It's also, if we completely give into it, we're never going to do any of our creative things, because creativity, one way or another, is going to be exposing. It's going to be showing who we are, and there's a lot on stake. But what we need to remember, that there's always more good than there is bad. There's always people who take things, whatever, even if you don't do your thing, there's going to be people who will take whatever you say and take it wrong way. Like those people will always exist. Haters will hate. But we can't do anything in this life if we're just giving up for the fear, especially when it comes to creativity. So here we are doing this podcast, and here we are talking about things with their real names, not editing this, just letting it exist as it is. Whew. So I have some notes in here, because otherwise my brain is going to just go scatter. I do feel nervous, I feel nervous about this first podcast, and I feel nervous what this is going to be like. So I just know what more I'm going to do this, the more casual it becomes, the more it's becoming a thing where I can relax. And I hope it's going to become even better and better with time. That's why I want to hear all of your perspectives as well. Let's read the first letter. And this is from one of my Patreon members, I think. Fears around letting myself to be myself with my vocals while my parents are around. I don't want to embarrass myself or get disapproval, but the truth is that they let me do what I want to, even though they may look at me weird. There's so much in this little couple sentence letter I got that I feel like summarizes a lot of what I was just talking about and what we feel as creatives. So the first sentence, fears around letting myself be myself with my vocals while my parents are around. So this person is clearly wanting to sing and want to record their vocals, but when the parents are around, they're feeling very self-conscious about it and they don't want to embarrass themselves or get disapproval. And that, for me, feels like that space that they're in doesn't feel completely safe to feel, where the space is not a place where they can feel safe to fail. And there is a failing means disapproval or embarrassing. There's shame in it. And shame, disapproval, wanting to belong is wanting to belong. We all want to belong. We want to all feel loved. We want to feel like we belong to something and we want to be accepted. And doing something completely unique that someone else could disapprove is almost like against of all our instinct, because what if that person doesn't approve that? So example, singing is something really good example of all this. I feel like, there used to be a time, especially like, I think about British culture, right? Do you have a pub culture? And there used to be a time where everybody sang in pubs, church. Singing was not seen as a thing that was especially a talent just from one person. It was a communal thing that everybody used to do together. But in our current society, it's become this thing where, we have expectations what a good singer looks like. So the same thing with artists. Like we look at someone drawing and we think, okay, the general public have an idea what a good drawing means. So suddenly we have rules of what is good art and what is bad art. It's kind of that simple. And it's seen as like there is these very generic rules for it. So we all think we all believe the same rules. So everybody knows what a good singer sounds like, or everybody knows what a good drawing looks like. But who made these rules in the first place? Who's decided that these rules exist? And also, should it be that way? So this person feels like that space is not safe for them to sing, because what if they're just imagining that their singing voice is good in the terms of these rules? What if they are not? What if they're just imagining it and then suddenly they're actually on the bad side of the rules where things are wrong? So as soon as we have this set of rules that we actually believe in, so it's not even necessarily what other people believe in. It's like what we have internally learned to believe. A good singer sounds like this, a bad singer sounds like that. Then obviously it's quite hard to start to believe that. No, it is then believing that you have right and wrong in art or in creativity. And this is something that I love saying, is that there is no rules. You can't fail in creativity. You can't. But what if you grow up in a space where you don't feel that, where you feel like there is rules. So let's say that you've been watching a X Factor with your parents, and they create comments like, oh, listen to that. Who does she think she is because she sings like that? So you hear these like, modern art is shit. You hear these sentences, flying sentences around the different topics, and you start believing that those are the standards that are going for. And especially if you hear them around your parents. What if then you try to do modern art or art, and suddenly all these little sentences are flying around in your head thinking, well, is this something they don't like because they said that about that other person, or they said that about themselves or something? Then that space doesn't become safe for you to explore without feeling like there will be failure. Like there's shame in trying. Like you can fail by opening your mouth and singing. And this whole conversation then kind of goes to validation and feeling that your emotions are validated, that you feel validated, and you, especially family. Oh my God, why is it always family that is the hardest one to get the validation you need from? Always family and friends as artists, like we always look it from a place like family and friends, but they are the ones that are usually the first to listen to your podcast, or first to listen to your track, or go to your art gallery opening, or look at your drawing that you made. Like usually we get our first validation for our art from random people, not from our family. And it's really rare to get it from your family. We want to belong, and we want that love from the people that we care the most, but they are usually the ones who struggle giving it the most. And that's where we are looking it from those places because we want it from them. But the sad fact is that we need to stop looking validation from those places, and we need to start looking it from those random people, from external communities and the people who are going to give it to us. Because then you will find a safe space where you can sing and you can explore and sound silly and feel ridiculous and outrageous without feeling embarrassed or feeling like you're shamed or all those feelings. Because then you say the last sentence, but the truth is that they let me do what I want to, even though they may look me weird. So that kind of tells me that they do kind of judge, but that's not judgment towards you though. That's their own fear. They're putting their fears to you. So their reaction is actually nothing to do with you. You know that they will love you, whatever you do, even if you sing, even if you explore whatever you want to explore. You know, but what happens quite often is that the people around us put a lot of their fears to us. So there will be like, oh, why do you want to do music? Because there will be no money in music. Or, oh, come down from the stage, come down, you will embarrass. Oh, that's so embarrassing. Oh, that's so cringe. Why do you make these videos on social media? They're so cringe. All that feeling of like shame for somebody else is actually usually your own reflection of something you can't do. It's your fear. So often people around us put their fears to us. This is them kind of putting the fear on you. They look at you weird. That's them feeling uncomfortable because they couldn't do what you're doing. Or they couldn't be in that position because they feel afraid. And it's quite empowering to start recognizing that as well, I do think. That, yeah. The thing is that you know that they love you, and you know, like you said, the truth is that they let me do what I want to. So I guess my perspective on this is that something that I have really tried to learn myself is that I I have online communities. I have my Patreon community, actually, which is the loveliest community of musicians ever. And they kind of give me the validation and the support that I really need, as well, my husband as well. So I feel like those two things, my husband and my community, are enough for me to give me the validation and the encouragement to continue. They don't put me down. They don't encourage me. I don't feel ashamed or afraid around them. I just feel supported and I feel love. And everybody else, I know that they care for me. They might cringe for things that I do. Like, example, I have a feeling that there will be people who will be like, oh, what's she doing now? She's doing like, podcast about like, is she like a self-help guru now? That kind of like attitude towards this kind of podcast. I understand that there will be people who they find it cringe, or they don't find it fun or exciting, or they find it embarrassing. And I'm like, that's fine. That's fine. They don't need to listen to it. They can still love me, and I can love them, and we can feel support from each other, but I'm not looking for that main validation from them. That's not gonna happen, because that will not be good for me, because their fears would then come to me. I need a little sip of coffee. I'm not going to do the one thing where I'm slurping directly on the microphone. Don't worry. I have misophonia, which means that I'm super sensitive to those kind of sounds. So there we go. And this is going to be a thing where my camera only records half an hour at a time, and then it shuts down. So I need to keep on pressing that record button. Maybe I need to get a new camera at one point. Okay, there was another letter. And whoever is new here and doesn't know me, I am not English native speaker. So my English is kind of funny sometimes. That was the insecurity I also had. Like, what if my English is not good enough? What if I say things that doesn't work? That just sounds ridiculous. And I'm like, oh, but that is me. I am Finnish person who speaks English. I live in England. That is who I am. My existence. Take it or leave it. Okay, this is from my video editor. Little message. Obstacles can come from both internal and external sources. For me, many of my internal obstacles are beliefs that I internalized from society, which can make it hard to separate them from my own thoughts and feelings. One of those biggest challenges I face is the fear that my work is not cool or edgy enough, which makes me question my abilities as a creative. I often worry that other editors might judge my skills and that clients will regret choosing to work with me. These insecurities can be amplified by the competitive and cliquey nature of the creative industry. I hear you there, which can make it even harder to break through those negative thought patterns. I relate so hard. I think there is the whole aspect of identity is massive in creative industries. It's the thought patterns of what do we think, we need to put ourselves in a box, right? I always say this, like, industry wants it in a box, but creatively in a box, because it's easier to manage the picture of you if you're in a box. But the thing is that as creators, we are really multidimensional people, and we have so many ways of identities and things that we want to explore. But I feel like there is this certain, again, the right and wrong rules that we've created for ourselves, where it's like, what is cool and what is not cool? Well, we're looking at then a demographic of certain type of people that we consider are cool. But why do we think that they're cool? So it's usually rules that we create, isn't it? We create the idea that this group of people are cool. And there is rules that we create. Cool means people who dress this way, or people who make this type of music, or this type of editing or art. And if I don't dress like this and speak like them and do all those rules that have been created, then I am doing it wrong and I'm not cool. It equals not cool. But it's really hard though, isn't it? Because we are so unique as humans, and rules they're really hard to really put into these situations, because in the end, who is anyone to say what is right and what's wrong? My thought pattern kind of disappeared there, to be honest. I think the idea that we have internalized patterns of these rules from society is one of the hardest things to kind of first knowledge. And then to kind of realize how they are. Yeah, that's what I was going to say. It kind of comes back to, again, validation and wanting to be accepted, isn't it? Because we have these rules so that we create, so that we want to belong. So we think someone is cool because we admire them, or we think there's something amazing about them. So then we want to belong to that group of demographic that we are really liking. So then we are putting a lot of pressure to ourselves to act that way and talk like that and dress like that, or whatever it needs to be part of that and to belong, because we want to belong. But I think that problem becomes, and where it can become confusing, consuming, is when those rules create so much pressure to ourselves to act a certain way, that we put so much pressure and we feel like if we don't do those rules, we fail. Is anyone following here anymore? I feel like my thought process, I'm just saying a lot of words, rules and validation. There was actually one thing I wanted to say about fear. All I can say is that I feel like those two letters kind of reflected, like, very related, and it was all about just feeling like the need to belong, and if we don't belong, if we don't follow those rules, because I'm saying it again, then we can put so much pressure and it becomes exhausting, because we're trying to be something that necessarily isn't what we're supposed to be. So example, I could have done this like a proper way, this whole podcast, to feel more accepted. I could dress a certain way to come across more professional. I could edit it to come across like, some people will hate the fact that I don't edit this. So I could have just put so much pressure of feeling like I can't be fully 100% of myself, instead of I am constantly following other people's expectations, instead of just thinking, who am I? And then if people don't want this, then they can fuck off. I don't know what's the policy about swearing in podcast. Can I swear in a podcast? It's quite natural for me to swear a little bit when I get passionate about topics. So I think I will swear. So yeah, again, someone might not like that. Someone might. But this is me, so people can take it or leave it. And I think that's the kind of thing with art, is that we need to figure out where we are and what are our boundaries and what makes us cool. And if those cool people like us the way that we are, then that should be enough. Because they're not really cool. That demographic that we want to impress, they're not really cool if they don't like us the way that we want to be. So they can go away and think about their actions otherwise. They can go and impress themselves otherwise. I thought that there was really interesting, just to the end, there was an interesting thing about fight or flight reaction and fear, that there is this concept in fight or flight called low road and high road. So low road is when we get the feeling of anxiety and fear. We can feel, I will never be able to do this. I should stop now, and I will never be able to do this and I will stop now. And yeah. So just saying, protecting yourself, I will never be able to, so I need to go away, leave everything, and yeah, just leave it. Why am I repeating myself? And high road is, I recognize that I feel anxious and this feels difficult, but I'll be okay. Maybe faking things, maybe faking things, maybe taking things in smaller steps will be less overwhelming. So this is exactly what I decided to do with this podcast. I think unconsciously for a year, I was doing low road. I was not conscious that I was doing this. I was thinking this is going to be too difficult, too overwhelming. Who am I thinking I am to do this? I don't have enough knowledge. I'm not capable of doing this. So I was just pushing it unconsciously away. But I was not aware that I was doing this. I was so anxious and so afraid of it. And then in therapy, I started realizing that I was doing that. And then I took the high road. I recognized I was anxious and I'm afraid, which I still am. But I decided that I'm going to do this in shorter steps. So I am sitting here today doing this first podcast episode. And I decided that whatever happens from this first podcast, I'm going to see how it goes. I'm going to send it to some of my followers in my Patreon, and I'm going to ask them how they feel about it. And I'm going to get feedback, and I'm then deciding what to do with it. I can record it again if I want to. I can create an edited version. It's okay. I'll be fine. I will take it in small steps because I want to do it. So what high road means is that we accept that fear happens, and fear happens in every moment. Fear happens in us in everyday situations. All the time, fear is with us. It's something we can't push away. It's something that is extremely human to happen. And it's okay that fear happens. But what we can do is acknowledge it and not let it make us stop do things that we want to do. I have spoken. That was I was just thinking today. So I've been thinking about it a lot, and now I shared it with you. So thank you so much. Come and share your stuff in your thoughts and your things, what you've been thinking about in @LenaThinks, and DM me and we'll chat more. Here we go. Thank you for listening for the first podcast. We will go now to the next episode.